This is the valley of the Wenatchee River in the state of Washington, midway between Seattle and Spokane, a veritable Garden of Eden, where the forbidden fruit of biblical lore has glorified the town of Wenatchee and made it the apple capital of the world. It is estimated that upon 40,000 acres of precious soil, Wenatchee and the Yakima valleys produce about 30% of the United States supply of apples, and not a few of them are hand-picked by Wenatchee maidens, some of whom might well qualify as modern Eves in the proverbial Garden of Eden. And speaking of gardens, the Sunken Garden at Spokane is a fair indication of Washington's praiseworthy efforts at beautifying its municipalities. Throughout the entire state, plants and flowers bloom abundantly, and they are particularly beautiful on the grounds of the state capitol at Olympia. Patterned after the national capitol at Washington, D.C., this imposing building occupies a commanding site at the head of Puget Sound, and it is in full view for miles as one approaches the city by water. At Long Beach in southwest Washington, one may enjoy a 27-mile automobile drive on a natural roadbed of hard sand, amidst fantastic monuments carved by the sea. And only a few miles from here on the Olympic Peninsula, the Quinault River, with its swift-flowing rapids, affords thrills galore for those who would travel in dugout canoes, skillfully paddled by Quinault Indians. Whether we travel by water, land, or air, we are thrilled by the scenic grandeur of the evergreen state, particularly in the San Juan Islands, over which we are now flying. An archipelago of 172 islands and a natural haven for the yachtsmen, fishermen, and hunters who come here from all parts of the world. Aside from being a land of diversion, this region also lends itself to agricultural pursuits, and each little plot of soil adds to the quilt-like patterns as seen from the air. We are now flying over one of Washington's many smaller but progressive ports of call for steamers plying throughout Puget Sound and the San Juan Archipelago. Many of these ports also have important fishing industries and large exporting lumber mills. Aside from scenic grandeur, the San Juan Islands are noted for interesting tales of history. This old blockhouse, for example, erected by British soldiers about 70 years ago, is a relic of the so-called Pig War. It was in the days of dispute regarding the boundary line between Canada and the United States. An American named Cutler had a garden close to the disputed line, and one day a pig from Canada crossed the line and started to dig in Cutler's garden, whereupon Cutler shot the pig, and then the war began. For 12 years, British troops occupied this territory. Finally, Emperor William I of Germany, in a court of arbitration, sustained the United States claim to the San Juan Islands. Before concluding our glimpses of Washington State, we will devote a few scenes to the grand and benevolent Columbia River, the largest river flowing into the Pacific Ocean from the western continent, and the second largest river in the United States. It rises in British Columbia, about 150 miles north of the international boundary line, and finally flows into and through the state of Washington for a distance of 1,400 miles, endowing that state with more than a sixth of the potential water power of the entire United States. Rock Island Dam, which we now behold, was the first to harness the great power of the Columbia, and as a result, this hydroelectric plant makes possible the development of the arid region in which it is located by furnishing cheap power to pump irrigation water from the river. But all this was a serious barrier to the countless schools of salmon that swim up the Columbia River to spawn in its headwaters. So the United States government came to the rescue by building fish ladders to aid the salmon in their migration. Of all the fishes nature created, the salmon is probably the most determined and plucky. Each summer they come in from the sea, never stopping to feed and seldom to rest, intent only upon one objective, and that is to reach the headwaters of the fresh streams where they were formerly spawned. Once in the streams, they struggle against swift currents, charge through swirling rapids, leap over the crests of waterfalls, until at last they reach the place of their birth, where the females deposit their eggs to be fertilized by the males, and having thus fulfilled their destiny, both male and female die. In this instance, however, the salmon are being transported by specially designed trucks to spawning grounds in streams tributary to the Columbia River above Rock Island Dam. Following the circuitous route of the Columbia River, we come to one of the most gigantic engineering feats ever attempted in the history of human achievement, the Grand Coulee Dam, destined to be the most massive man-made structure in the world, 3 times larger than the largest Egyptian pyramid. When completed, the Grand Coulee Dam will transform about 1.25 million acres of semi-desert into fertile soil. And some idea of this modern miracle is illustrated by scenes that already exist in the famous wheat belt of Washington State. As we gaze upon the natural beauty of this golden wheat, with the peaceful blue sky beyond, and feel the soft wind that blows around us and over the grain, we are exalted at the thought of living in a country that is naturally gifted with all the requirements that the average man needs for his health and well-being. And it is with this thought that we most reluctantly conclude our glimpses of Washington State.